What up, y'all? Welcome back to my part 2 video of the game that got hated on unnecessarily for some reason for some people, Resident Evil Village. The last one was long and just a tad hard to go through. Pause. But it was just a lot to go over, I'm not gonna lie. Last video, we visited the introduction, Lady D and her beloved castle estate, the fat and Donna Beneviento, and why that was one of the best sequences to the survival horror genre. Today we're going to be talking about a few different aspects: the combat, the inventory, the action, and then, well, of course, the remaining dull and tedious remaining villains, Moreau and Heisenberg, and of course Dummy Mommy Mother Miranda. To be honest, this is where the game starts to kind of diminish compared to the first half. And by all means, I'm not saying it's trash. I'm not even saying it's just okay. I think it was still good. I just feel as though if you were to give a score to the first half and the second half of the game, the first half would get an A+, and the second half would get like a B+, B middle, I don't know, something like that in the mid-ground way. It's kind of hard to say. Before I get started, please drop a like on the video, as this helps me out an absolute ton. And if you've been digging the videos, please hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get the channel on to 200 subscribers. I greatly appreciate it a lot. And let's go ahead and get started.
Resident Evil.
As I always said, this game has been pretty easy up until a point. The funny thing about Village is that you actually do still gotta conserve ammo and adapt a little to what you're doing and who you're fighting. It's not just shoot and go. However, I feel like most of the game isn't as challenging as it could have been for normal difficulty. I could probably count the number of times I died on one hand in Village. While on 4, for example, I probably died 40 fucking times, a ton. And on my first playthrough at the same time, same difficulty. Easily 40 times, 50 times. I was just getting slaughtered in that game for absolutely no reason, bro. Some of it was for dumb stuff, and some of them was absolute bullshit, bogus bullshit, and some of it was not, but it is what it is. So obviously you can tell there's some slight differences in difficulty. Can you tell 4 is the GOAT? Because I'm pretty much comparing every aspect to 4 for no reason. It's always 4. It's always 4. Everyone's always 4. This is no mystery. There's still tension in this game because obviously it's Resident Evil. Because missing a shot still feels like I can shot myself in the head, while missing a whole headshot just feels like I took a whole knife and just slowly pushed it into my brain. It's that. I hate it. I hate missing any shots. It still gives you that feeling of you just missing the ammo or just wasting the ammo whenever you missing shots. Honestly, you really don't know what the fuck is coming for you next. It might be something bigger, like this big. Village is really weird in this aspect because while you do get ammo frequently, most enemies you still in fact run out. So conserve. Don't let the flow of this game fool you. Enemy AI does dodge from time to time. And their attack patterns can be spontaneous, which will cause you to miss. You will run into a few mini-bosses and unofficial mini-bosses from time to time. And if you don't have a magnum, a semi-shotgun, or a grenade launcher yet, you will be blowing through ammo like Tony going through lines, bro. This is kind of the tension and fear I play survival horror for, so I can safely say they did the damn job at what they trying to do. Every type of enemy feels different, as they should. As I said before, I don't really need to go much into detail here, but your inventory size expands pretty quick, so you don't have any issues filling it up. Everything fits perfectly, and I personally ran into supplies getting scarcer late in the game, but as to be expected when reaching later in a half. Ethan's raids gets you to the push as he actually becomes badass, blowing off enemy after enemy to Kingdom Come. Pause. The only thing that comes various as far as the combat goes is I hear that for the amount of ammo you get, there isn't enough enemies to balance. I can't say this for the same for everyone at any given section. However, there were points where I do feel like I had mad clips, but this wave of enemies only consisted of 3 dudes. Bro, what the hell? Let me just empty the clip onto this dead body just to make some extra room. What were your experiences on this? Did you feel like you had too much range, or were you needing ammo constantly? I mean, it's kind of would depend on your difficulty, to be honest, but just let me know in the comments. I'm really curious. Moving on, there is nothing more foul within this game than Moreau.
Shit! Stay back!
The exit's underwater. You're done.
I don't have time for this. Miranda sent you to slow me down? You're pathetic. What are you talking about? The fuck is wrong with you?
Except the large baby fetus. Like, look, I'm gonna be real here. I'm gonna bum rush this guy's section because it was just very, very lackluster. And it's bad because I really felt bad for the dude. Like all he wanted was mother's milk, but he just couldn't get the love that he wanted. Also, shout out to the Boys fans out there if you get that reference, because they be wilding over there. Remember when I said there's not much background deets on these lords? Yeah, Moreau has like none whatsoever. He's basically a grotesque mama's boy. Obviously, he's another descendant, but it's known that he came from a line of fishermen and doctors. This is how he was useful to Mother Miranda by conducting more Cadeau experiments for her. Reading some of this sounded sad as though. Like, he was stuffing parasites in people's tummies. Like, bro, what are you, a toddler? Like, he's a grown-ass fish monster saying tummies like he's 4 years old. Like, bruh, part of me really wants to know, like, how this man was before all this happens, because, like, he's pretty much a child in a fish monster body. Like, did the Cadeau regress your maturity, my guy? What's going on here? Is that something that he can even do? Like, I'm very confused about how this all works at the end of the day. Motherfucker is like a baby genius or some shit. Anyways, Moreau's section is shorter than Donna's. You meet him, take the flask. He's pretty much sitting in this sad-ass room with a bowl of cheese and like an 80s TV with like the worst connection ever. Loki, I hope he didn't eat the cheese because he throws up in it afterwards, yo. Pass!
Mother Miranda, if it's for you, I'd do anything.
He does this constantly, by the way. Like, man's insides are pretty much all the way f***ed up. There's no battle for the flask. Ethan just takes it. He insults him for a bit and tries to barricade him in from escaping, but that's kind of it. It pretty much almost immediately goes into his final boss transformation. It's like the developers also did him dirty by treating him as not that much of a threat. His entire aura is basically just him being Miranda's, pet? She really doesn't give Eradicate's single tale about him when he tries like super hard. I'm getting some Dom and sub vibes here for a bit, which is mad weird considering this man looks like this. The entire boss fight revolves emptying the dam of water, so he has no base to swim around for the remainder of the fight. It's pretty much a straightforward path to doing this. Just time yourself across the bridge debris so you're not getting eaten, and that's kind of really all. After the water's done, you have a land fight with him. Even though they want Moreau to be an easy breeze, he actually killed me like 3 times. I ain't even gonna lie. It was probably because of this nasty ass regurgitated acid he pukes up and burns you. And he moves kind of fast. I can't fake. You just use the rifle for the last parts of the match. You kind of just finish him off, like. And there's also some explosives that really help you a lot. The rifle was pretty much kind of like my ace in a hole. Like, after I kind of ran out of like most ammo. Like, I run out of handgun ammo kind of often, and like shotgun ammo like all the time in this game. And so I usually kind of just use the rifle for like last resorts, because it's kind of like it was my strongest like weapon. I also don't know why he literally explodes. Like, you shot him, not put a bomb inside him. So I don't know what's up with games deciding to blow up nastier characters, and they always got like meaty meat on them, bro. Like, no, I don't prefer to see the guts of this already nasty ass character. Anyway, Moreau was one of the harder bosses, regardless of how he was supposed to be depicted as like this easy pushover. He really wasn't, in my opinion. What were your thoughts, Amaro? Was he an easy villain? Did you like struggle with him sometimes? Was he easier than expected? Was he harder than expected? Am I just sucky for losing to him like 3 times? Let me know in the comment section. I kind of want to know. Going in reverse to the shortest section of the game to the absolute longest section.
Took your damn time.
With all the big baddies out of the way, you make your way into the final portion of the factory of Carl Heisenberg.
Who the fuck are you?
Side note, I had the Dante mod on this man the whole time, but I'm gonna need a Breaking Bad Heisenberg mod. Why have they not done this? Like, I need the mod for this. Give me Heisenberg with the hat, the shades, the bald head. It's actually, no, he's not gonna have a bald head because obviously he wearing a hat. But the Heisenberg from Breaking Bad, get on this. I need this immediately. This is perfection. What do you mean?
You're goddamn right.
So the factory was absolutely massive, huge, bigger than Castle Demetres, and as every domain represents its lord, Heisenberg's does the exact same. His entire mission is to finish Mother Miranda himself, which will allow him to be released from this quote-unquote family. I think it's implied that he was the first lord appointed to this and he never really wanted it. So this factory is kind of a bit of like a hub for planning and creating these vessels as an army to overthrow Miranda. He hates her ass, like despises her. Basically, you know how like basically take Stink Meter and Ruckus doing a fusion dance, and basically Stink Meter and Ruckus did a fusion dance level of hating something. Like, for them, it's gonna be hating on black people, but this man just single-handedly hates Mother Miranda. Like, that amount of hate that Ruckus and Stink Meter would have for hating black people is the amount of hate that equates to the amount of hate the Heisenberg has for Mother Miranda. It's just that bad. Like, he hates her guts. Like his whole planning for like the past several years was like, I would like make her pay and get the hell out of here. That's his whole last plan.
Man, this some old bullshit.
Combining man and machine with his experiments, he's essentially based off Dr. Frankenstein. He went through several designs, and his story was originally... I'm sorry, I'm getting like random messages in the chat. Sorry about that, guy. He went through several designs, and his story was originally going to have his father being as included as one of these wild experiments, and even his final machine form. So in the end, he would have only stayed as the mad scientist character, which I'm kind of glad they didn't do. Like, they actually gave him the point of being a fighter, which I can really appreciate. I actually didn't even notice his face is actually in a design in the machine form, and so I didn't know that until I really looked it up. And to be honest, that kind of makes sense, because when you're fighting his machine form, both times when he transforms into it, whether inside the factory or outside the factory, you kind of don't want to get too close to it. So I don't really notice. You can't really tell when you're battling. But if you look up this character, it's just like, that's kind of freaky. That's kind of wild to see. So it's cool they actually like implanted that like wild, like fleshy, multi kind of like design in a machine. I thought that was pretty cool. The cool thing about Heisenberg is that since he wants to overthrow Miranda, he's one villain you don't really feel you need to beat, but instead he kind of feels like an anti-hero. This man has a whole plan that he explains to Ethan, and even considers working with Ethan to make this shit happen. Partway through, I wanted to believe that I really wasn't gonna have a final battle with him, and figured I was just gonna work with him at the end of the day and he would be killed by Mother Miranda. This is the one thing that I think they really did well with his character that separated him from the others. It's also crazy because, well, because of this, he seems a lot more human than the others.
I'm just glad to see normal people at last.
He's just a normal looking dude with like Magneto powers. Like, that's dope as like, that's badass. Like, that's mad dope. I want to talk about the enemies and walk through with a factory. Now, this factory goes on for ages, man. Like, ages. Like, Ethan aged 14 years walking through this factory. Like, it's a huge factory, and it's filled with like these drillmen. Pause, what? And they're not always easy to defeat. In fact, there are some parts here that you'll have to fight off maybe like 2 or 3 of them at a time, and you can't just give them headshots either, but you have to destroy the red mechanical ports on their chest. It's not very complicated, but they do defend themselves from shots. There are actually a few different kinds of these dudes, each tougher than the last, and one massive propeller man that follows you around from floor to floor.
don't have time for this bullshit.
Propeller Man was basically Heisenberg's reckless and most deadliest uncontrollable experiment. All he really does is charge at you, and I mean like really charge at you. And I really mean like charge at you, like he's gonna blow through entire rooms just to get to you. What? Pause. Yo, I'ma chill with these statements. Like, what? Remember in my part 1 video when I said there aren't really many terrifying parts in the game like in 7? Well, other than Donna, once you get to the floors of this place, Ethan kind of gets knocked back down to the first floor, and he kind of has to go through this all again, except not as long. So it's kind of like not as tedious and like vigorous. It just takes like a few steps to get back to where you came, because he has access to an elevator here. In the elevator, you also have the Duke in the elevator. You can buy items and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. So you got the elevator, you can just go to the next floor, the second floor, the third, fifth. I think it's like 5 or 4 floors. I can't remember. But it's a lot easier than just manually going through all the stairs or the floors, which I found extremely convenient. The second round going up to the factory, it's mad dark. The power's out, so it's kind of a little more terrifying. Especially when you only hear the footsteps of some of these enemies walking through, as well as the Moriyaika walking through complete darkness, like emerging through complete darkness, start charging you. The battle with Heisenberg feels like Arkham Knight when you constantly do battle in the Batmobile and the Batwing, so it kind of sucks. Like, it doesn't really quote unquote suck, but like how the whole factory very action heavy. It's not super action heavy. It does have, obviously, you got horror elements because these drill men are mad scary. I'm not gonna lie. But I feel like it's the most action heavy portion, other than the point that I'm about to explain after this. But I do feel like it's action heavy, and the final battle with him is also action heavy, and probably not what most Ari fans would want. And it's not horror action heavy. It just feels like an episode of Gundam, to be honest. Ugh. I can smell the gunpowder all over the screen. And Resident Evil 5, just Resident Evil 5, just regurgitated all over this scene. I swear, I wasn't really a fan of this fight because I don't be playing Resident Evil as to play Gundam. Fun fight, but I just wasn't a fan of this fight for this kind of game, if that makes sense. So we've reached the final hour of this game, and this was absolutely not Resident Evil. Remember the game Fear back in the PS3 and 360 era? Yeah, this is literally what this game felt like now. Like, it felt like Call of Duty Lycans at this point. Call of Duty Zombies. This was Chris's short portion of the game, and his objective was to retrieve Rose and finish Miranda, and it was as simple as that. Blast through Lycans, keep it rolling. You got an endless amount of ammo at your disposal. Army of 2? Nah, Army of 1, bitch. Like, you didn't even need to try, as you absolutely steamrolled through these motherfuckers. You are now nothing to me. Kill death ratio is now priority. Survival horror is now been thrown out the window completely. This is now action horror. The only difficult part here was a boss fight with Udius Strager? I think that's how you pronounce his name. I don't really know. I'm sorry if I butchered the name. Who was the brother of Udius? Yeah, remember that big gate in the beginning of the game with the giant hammer? Yeah, I forgot to mention, you actually fight him in a small ass cave before getting to Heisenberg's factory, which is honestly a task in itself. Not to mention, he ought to be ashamed of himself for losing to Ethan Winters in a 1v1 with help. He's a random systems engineer with minor combat military trainer. How did you lose? How did you get folded by this man? Tragic. Also, I want to point out, this should be annoying because you fight both of these niggas in small ass areas when they're like 22 feet tall themselves. Why? It's like no space. I mean, I guess they added into the horror elements. They added the difficulty level. This game wasn't that hard, so they had to you know, make it hard somewhere. Pause. What? This battle isn't too complicated. This entire section really isn't hard at all. He gives you a bit of trouble if you're entirely reckless, but you get explosives help from Chris's team, which makes it even easier. Before I continue on with the final boss and the conclusion, I want to talk about how this game wrapped up everything in a little bow perfectly with the village itself. Starting off, it's not very obvious how this village plays an important role other than in an introduction, and it's because once you get to the introduction, you only come to the village again a handful of times. However, everything subtly originated there. The character represents something that came from the village. Examples: the Demetres wine that was provided by the village, House Beneviento's doll making lineage for the village, Moreau's fisherman's history and the food provisions for the village, and the factory that was so neglected by the village due to their traditional pagan methods. Essentially it was neglected further. They neglected because of like further new technological advances. They wasn't about that. We was like, we doing stuff there's just no ways. They wasn't about that new technology, that new. They wasn't about living that life. From this to the hive mind megamycete that's under the village for century, which is seemingly a curse that Mother Miranda kind of let run amok due to her selfish reasons. Without this village, Rose would have never gotten taken. Miranda would have never found a host for her deceased daughter's conscience. Ethan would have just been still a normal systems engineer in the IT department somewhere, and his village could have continuously lived in prosperity. 7 leading into village can be a bit of a convoluted story when it comes to the details breaking down in the game. The nitty-gritty details are always explained in notes, passages, messages, and the like, but if you were to play through these again in order after the initial playthrough, everything is pieced together perfectly. At first, you wouldn't even think it makes sense how the story goes from a hick town of modern-day Louisiana to some ancient cursed village in rural Eastern Europe. It almost doesn't work, but surprisingly does. And if you're new to the series, you'd think these are completely unrelated. I have to give Capcom and the development team a huge applaud of appreciation for the way they revealed the story to the player in such a methodical way. Yeah, sure, it wasn't as scary as it could have been, but to each their own, let's be honest. And as an honorary mention, notice this happened in Eastern Europe. I would love to think that this part of Eastern Europe wasn't far from the details of the Treasure Kennedy report that happened little years prior. Resident Evil 4, I'm doing that video next, by the way. Be on the lookout for that. Did we really rule out Mother Miranda as a culprit of the Los Plagueis events prior to the Kennedy report? Not at all. So let me explain. Mother Miranda as the main antagonist was a very, very polished villain in the series. Moving off pure selfishness alone, she single-handedly sacrificed hundreds and thousands of innocent lives for her own goals. She's thriving off of those Wesker vibes. I swear, a menace, pure demon is what she is.
In less than 5 minutes, we'll reach the optimal altitude for missile deployment. Ouroboros will be released into the atmosphere, ensuring complete global saturation.
She somehow managed to make herself a whole ass god for a century in order to bring, like, her daughter back to life, but ultimately failed because of a systems engineer. I'm be real, I keep thinking that's a roast, but I'm be honest, that's a good ass job for real, bro. Like, that's a good job. Like, he make a systems engineer, bro, in the IT, bro. Ethan's making some bread, bro. He is making that. He is. Yo, you know he making that bread. Yo, Mia. He at least making that 200K. He at least making 200K. I already know. More importantly, it's because Rose's power was strong enough to nullify a bit of Miranda's final sacrificial energies. I don't know if that's the right term, but it sounds cool, so I'm gonna use it. Finding the megamycete and renaming it as the Black God, she ultimately created a century-long plan that ended with her adopted family even being used as sacrifices. There's an immensely dark vibe here. She's the villain that uses everyone as pawns. There's no sacred life, no redeemable quality, no remorse. everyone dies at her expense. There is no one important, not even children. This is what in fact makes Mother Miranda a completely heartless character and completely heartless good villain. This, along with the blood rituals and the dark cultist behaviors, Mother Miranda was the closest thing to Osmond Sadler from RE4. And as I mentioned Los Plagueis, this goes even further back. Oswald Spencer, one of the original creators of the Umbrella Corp, was a student of hers, and because of her teachings went on to be responsible for the progenitor virus. This is why you see the Umbrella Corp's emblem around the holy grounds of the kings of the ritual sites in this game, during the village, in the village. I don't know. Motherfucking Miranda is ultimately the cause of Resident Evil and the entire destruction of the whole ass human race because she wanted to bring her damn daughter back to life. She in the long run caused a mass infection and wasn't even fully aware. This whole damn thing is her fault. Arrest her ass, bro. Arrest her ass. It is over. Book 'em. This is what I have to say. Capcom did the damn thing in this story. How can you hate on Village? Where could they possibly go? After all this, her final boss battle wasn't very complicated at all. Harnessing the power of the Mega Mycete, she grows into her molded form, and she doesn't really pose much of a threat during this battle. Ammo drops fairly quickly, and if you have the launcher, the magnum, the shotgun, it's safe to say you can finish it with ease. I personally ran out of ammo on everything except the rifle, so this was my essential ace in the hole. Overall, it's a fun battle. She's a very fast-paced boss, so it's easy and fun to a point where if I died, well, when I died, because I did a number of times, I didn't have an issue trying it again. Miranda can be a little twitchy pain in the ass moving through her seemingly tree trunks and blends in like a chameleon, but never settles to make Ethan finally feel like he got a fat ass gorilla off of his back. The final scream was just a painful reminder that she just wasted an entire century of perfect planning and changing the world for like the absolute worst.
My daughter! My Eva!
100% facts. Ma'am, you wasted an entire century to screw up this plan. Now, if it was like the plan moved on to like another student of hers, or she had a secret thing that was just happening, no, the whole plan failed. From what we know now, the whole plan just absolutely failed. In conclusion, Resident Evil was a Resident Evil game that wasn't for the original fans. I guess it's from what I hear on opinions, but still managed to be loved by the right people. It has its gripes, and it has a fair share of its amazing treasures. 8 out of 10 on IGN, 84% on Metacritic, 10 out of 10 on Steam, 9 out of 10 on Destructoid, 85 out of 100 on PC Gamer. Realistically, no one gives a damn about any of these, but however, most new players love the game. The feedback doesn't lie. The hype after the release doesn't lie. And most importantly, the fan base doesn't lie. Sure, it wasn't as scary as 7, maybe even wasn't a classic as 4, but we could have got a 6. We could have got a 6. And, I can't speak on 6 because I never played it, but I can speak on 6 because if it's to the point where everyone tells me to not play it, there is an issue with 6. Village was full of great characters that made you feel something, whether it was nasty, sad, or hard. It gave you horror elements in totally different environments, and if you weren't pissed off, it even gave you options to say, screw it being scared, here's a gun, and unlimited ammo, go have some damn fun. The game deserved a high amount of praise for how it not only told the story for this Ethan saga, but how well it connected the entirety of the Resident Evil universe. Its high points definitely overshadowed its low points, and if that doesn't make it a good game, I don't know what does. Fight me if you need to. I give it to Capcom for bringing something amazing to the series, and not only that, but went to bring something successful that may have been a bit different. Morimasa Sato, I appreciate you, and until y'all are ready to bring back the 9th installment, I'm just gonna be chilling with y'all old titles. I'm playing through the 2002 remake right now, and yo, I can't lie, that game is kind of dangerous for my mind. Yo, it's an old game, but that game still got some oomph to it. It's an old game. It's a 20-year-old, 20-plus-year-old game, but I can see why it's a classic. I'm gonna say that for my Resident Evil original video. You know how it's gonna continue. Is that yo? Sheesh. Marguerite back in this piece again. With all that evil being said, thanks for coming over to my channel. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed what you watched today, please leave me a like. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And share with your homies. Share with your homies. Always share with your homies. I greatly appreciate it. And as you know, this helps me out a ton. I've left my links in the description down below. Feel free to follow me on those as well. I appreciate all of you. And most importantly, be safe out there. This is Kymax. Later.